Hello, everyone. We're in Sport Performance Secrets, and we have a special day today with Dr. Will Horton, who have amazing knowledge about what happened with the people when get into the addictions. He's a specialist. He's amazing in this aspect. And you will see we are a Sport Performance Secrets, achieving athletic ultimate performance. I'm Coach Al. I want to tell you I've coached for 40 years. I've been from beginning to elite gymnast, and several of my gymnasts was competing in the Olympics and world champions. And now I start to get this program to help you to achieve the maximum of the performance you have. And today's day is special for me because I have a person who will help us to understand a little bit better how we can be not victims of many things in this life. Okay, before we start, let me tell you one thing to ultimate and to make better of this performance. You need to go and check into the scroll into your Windows and browse the address bar and put sportperformancesecrets.com/apex. It's APEX. You will see right there Dr. Will Horton, and you will know you were there because the picture of Dr. Will Horton is right there. I think it's a very good idea if you send us some advice, some questions, everything what you want. You scroll down, yes, go down, and you will see a box right there. That box will help you to send us all the information you want to know, and we can start to communicate with you. Number two, in this call, Dr. Will give you a free gift in this interview. Dr. Will Horton will help you to understand better something really important for you, and he will explain more during this conversation we will have with Dr. Horton. And I have a little bit of quote for you from Emil Satopek. He was running the mile, very good, very strong guy, and he says an athlete cannot run with money in his pockets. He must run with hope and his heart, with hope in his heart and dreams in his head. Then I hope you're doing too. Let's see. Now we're going to understand a little bit more about the mind with Dr. Will Horton. Dr. Will Horton is the initiator of the National Federation of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. He is a specialist in NLP and hypnosis, and he totally transformed the NLP. It's Neuro-Linguistic Programming. He has a new way to see the things, and he's teaching all over the world. He's a clinical psychologist, and with his background, he tried to make more easy and understandable for every one of you all the ways the mind works. And we can make now the welcome to Dr. Will Horton. Dr. Will, thank you so much for being with us, and very welcome to coming here.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's always a pleasure to work with people who work with athletes.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here, especially because you know the needs of these athletes. And let me ask you one thing. How do you get into this investigation, to find out everything about the addictions?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It was the aspect of psychology that got me involved in studying it all, was recovering from addiction. I had an addiction that was quite active that kind of basically derailed my life for several years. And so once I started to recover from it, I had the opportunity, because I had some opportunity to go back to school on the VA, the Veterans Administration Program, which will tie into what we're talking about with pain control, which one of the things athletes do and end up maybe addicted to overcome pain. Well, once I got my life started to change, I started to study everything I could about what seems to separate those that can recover from an addiction versus those that can't recover from an addiction. You know, what's the mental construct that's different? And I find that fascinating. And so when I started studying psychology, I went right toward the basic idea of hypnosis and what we call neuro-linguistic programming, because that's what works the best and the fastest. So that's how, and I've been doing that ever since 30-something years. In fact, this last weekend, I was at a hypnosis conference, and for, I think it's 20 consecutive years, on Sunday afternoon, I always teach a class on addiction to this room full of therapists, which is a joy to my heart, because addiction is a problem that affects every family in America one way or another.
Yes. Yes, you're right. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because you know all the athletes, it performs according with the emotions they have. If they have the family member, one family member trapped in the addictions, or they themselves they are trapped in some kind of addictions, they will perform the same. And now I tell to everybody who is listening to this interview, if you are looking for some answers for this problem, if some of your family members has this problem, stay tuned, because we can help you really well, especially with the special gift Dr. Will give it to you in a couple more minutes. Now, let me ask you one more thing. It's very important for us as the athletes community, the coaches, to know how they get into these treatments of getting off of addictions.
Right. Well, you know, addiction affects a lot of people across the country. Every socioeconomic group, rich, poor, everybody in between. You know, athletes, non-athletes, all the way down. Now, the unique thing about athletes is usually because they're gifted in one area, they somehow think that that can help them in another area, and that may not be true. And I personally have helped a lot of athletes that started their addiction for a very legitimate reason, and that was pain control. They were injured, but they still have to compete, or they have to train through their injury because they got to get ready for the next competition or the next season. Especially when you get into the pro level of athletes, they'll play hurt because, you know, I know I've had the pleasure of working with some Major League Baseball players and hockey players and football players, and they weren't the superstars, but they all said the same thing. If they took too long off to recover from an injury, they may be replaced. The guy that comes in may be better. And I always use the football analogy that that Tom Brady only got his big breakthrough because the quarterback at the time, whose name was Drew Bledsoe, got hurt. And no one ever thought that this kid coming in would do what he did, but Drew Bledsoe never set foot back on the New England Patriots football field. So every athlete that watches that learns that lesson, that if I step back, I may not make it. And I know you as a gymnast coach know that, you know, this may be my best year to go to the Olympics. And if I don't train through these injuries, if I don't manage this pain and keep my skill set sharp, you know, this may be my best shot for the national championships or even something like the Olympics, which only comes across, as you know, you're an expert every 4 years. And lately, this seems like the athletes I work with the most are like MMA guys. I'm a martial artist. I do karate and two different styles of karate, and the last couple of years I've been doing jiu-jitsu, where injuries are common. So you have to learn how to manage the pain and get through the injuries. And one of the things that's happened with our current medical state is the pain control medicine has gotten very good, but the side effect is that you get used to it. And where, you know, 20, 30 years ago, maybe somebody would just, you know, they'd have the pain, they'd work through it. Now they can kill the pain and get through it, which may come up later. And then, of course, later on, I hope to talk about what happens when the athlete quits training, quits competing. You know, now a lot of these injuries seem to hit you as you start to retire, you know, and now you're not training, you're not doing those things. And so it's easy to get caught in that cycle of addiction where you were using the painkillers or and it could be prescribed by doctors, that's irrelevant to the addiction. Or maybe they drink to self-medicate. And also as athletes, when you're young, your body's all motivated, it's young, you're young. You can handle maybe a few more drinks and then go train. Then as you start to mature, your body can't snap back as quick, and yet you're still in the mindset of, a 26-year-old NFL player. Now you're a 36-year-old retired player with time on your hands. So, there's a whole bunch of issues that begin to link together, and, the end result is an addiction.
Yes, you're right. You are completely right. I'm so impressed with all your words, especially because the athletes, when they retire, they feel like they have a hole in their lives. They have an empty space. And not only about the emotions, about all the stimulants they was using and how they transfer that to the normal life and live without pain. And for us, it's very important when we have, in gymnastics, we have two issues, the fear and the pain. The pain because they need to condition so hard, and we practice around 10,000 hours a year. And this is a lot for a kid who is 16, 17 years old. But in all the sports, it's the same. After, as results of the 10,000 hours of practice, they will have injuries and they will have a collapse in muscles. And in your program, I've seen several things that you mentioned. That body gets stronger, but the mind can be catch up the body. And you use neuro-linguistic programming to help the athlete or the person to catch up the power of the body. How you can help kids with that issue?
Well, and there's a twofold thing there you brought up that's fascinating. On the one end, when people retire, they have a hole in their soul, sometimes it's called, which is common with addiction. And they might have filled that emptiness in their heart, if you want to call it that, or in their spirit, with the competition. Because competition releases all the neurochemicals where you're competing, so your dopamine's up, you're in the zone. Plus you get all the accolades from the crowd, and a lot of times it's your teammates. Always athletes talk when they retire, they go, oh, do you miss the limelight? Many of them don't say they miss the limelight, but they all say, I miss my teammates. Even in a sport like gymnastics, which is a lot of individual sports, you got the team. And I know you as an elite coach, one of the things you do is build that team camaraderie. And then as soon as you're out, it's gone. So with kids, one of the other things that happen, especially if they're gifted, especially if they're genetically gifted, so they can do a little bit, they can run a little faster, they're a little bit stronger. For a gymnast, maybe they're a combination of they're stronger and they've got the good hand-eye coordination, the good balance, and the strength to do, the bars and the rings and all the things that they're going to do, and balance for the beam and things like that. So they have that unique ability. That's God-given. Well, what happens when you get a unique God-given ability that those around you maybe can't duplicate? Even with all the coaching, they won't be as good as the elite level. Well, one of the things that happen, you start feeling guilty because you're so good. Especially if you're so good, you don't have to work as hard as your buddies or your teammates because they just don't have that genetics. So sometimes two things can happen, and I know you deal with it as an elite coach, and all the coaches out there watching deal with that, is you want to keep, your elite athlete motivated, and while you bring up your other athletes, right? So they keep going. But if you feel guilty, one of the things you might do to relieve that guilt when you're alone, and you might take a pain pill, because it's an emotional pain you're feeling. It's not just physical. It's an emotional pain. So you'll take a pain pill. You'll have a few drinks, because even kids in our culture, they can get access to alcohol. Especially as an athlete, a high school athlete.
Yeah.
They was a bunch of things around here about they busted some high school parties because it was a football team. Well, they had alcohol. Well, they're athletes. People like athletes, and people want to help them. So there's alcohol there, and it becomes self-medicating to overcome that emotional pain, which I think, and I know you and I have talked, That's a big part of it. Yes, I hurt my shoulder, so I got physical pain, but then there's the emotional pain I need to deal with. And that's where when you get the two together, a physical pain and emotional pain, that's where you get a lot of issues of the addiction rapidly going up, because when you first start, you have to admit it works. It kills the pain, the physical pain. It kills or deadens some of the emotional pain. So, that's what we can do to help kids, is to help walk them through some of those processes so they don't start self-medicating, which self-medication is one of the gateways into all of the addictions.
You are right. It's amazing what you says, because exactly that happened in all the athletes. They start to feel that relief in the physical pain, but they don't understand the connection between the physical pain and the emotional pain. They think it's the same, and with the pill will solve the problem, but it's not. The emotional pain is totally different than the physical pain. And now when we have tools to help them to release to that emotional pain, they don't need to look for alternatives like painkillers or something like that. I've seen in sports most injuries lately, and this is only for the emotional pain they cannot handle. And that's why I'm so excited about your program, because you use NLP. As you know, the NLP help them to construct in their mind the emotions. Can you explain us a little bit about how the mind construct that emotions in the sports?
Well, your mind controls everything, and sometimes people get too complicated with how your brain works. Your brain works pretty simply, and one of the things I fell in love with the hypnosis and the NLP all about is it makes it simple. It's direct, it's to the point, things like that. And you have all these processes going on in your brain that if you know how to channel them, you can use that. I'll give you two quick examples. If you if someone thinks of somebody they really like a buddy, a pal, teammate, fellow athlete, you really like this person, and if you close your eyes and imagine this person, they'll take an image, and they'll also take a space. Like they might be right in front of you, they could be off to the left, wherever they are. Great. So if you think about this person you really like and kind of point to them, okay, great. Now, if you think about a person you really don't like, somebody you don't like, a competitor, somebody who done you wrong in the past, something like that. Now you close your eyes and you think about that person, they'll take another space somewhere else. It's how your brain's sorting information. So it might be down here, right, over here. So now, but if you try to move that person you don't like, if you try to move that person to the space of the person you like, usually what happens, your brain says no, and the person goes back, right? Or it just rejects it. Because that's how your brain is processing information. It's just placing things and things like that. So if we know that, we can begin to focus it, we can begin to channel it slightly differently. And if you think about sports, one of the things athletes either do innately or somehow they get coached is that ability to train their brain to find cues or situations or things that help them get their goals instead of things that stop them from getting their goals. It's kind of like if you ever wanted a new car or something and you haven't decided which one yet, so you're looking at this car and that car and this car, and then you decide I'm going to buy this car. Suddenly, you see that car everywhere you look. You wouldn't have noticed it a few weeks before that. Now, boom, there it is. Why? You told your brain, this is important, go find it. So now that's kind of a general one, but this is what athletes have to train their brain to do, especially in sports, competition sports, where they train their brain to find the opportunity, whether it's a running back in football, finding the seam, as they call it, or a quarterback finding the open receiver under all that action, a basketball player being able to judge all this stuff in motion. They've trained their brain to do it slightly different. And as you said, it comes through coaching. That's why they hammer in that, 7,500 to 10,000 hours of training to get a skill done. Well, that's what it's doing, is it's retraining your brain. And what we can do with the kind of stuff here is retrain your brain in a different way. So I kind of took that attitude, that outlook, that process when I started studying addictions. You know, if it works in sports and it works in sales, it works in these areas, well, why don't I look at people who've recovered from an addiction, break down the steps of what they do, like we do it, like you do in sports. You know, this is how she got so good, the training, the repetition, the things. Well, we do that with addictions and help people recover from it. And then all the other aspects that we're always dealing with. I kind of talk a lot when I do.
Amazing. That's good. That's good. That's excellent. Your information really is very illustrative and give us a better ideas, better insights of what happening inside the minds. Like you mentioned, when you buy that car, the reticular formation inside your head start to identify those things. That's why the people get trapped in negativity or in another things. And that's the one who give us open the door into the addictions too, because you start to put attention. When you put your attention, you know that grows. And then you put the attention in the negativity, that will grow. In the sports, usually we put the attention in the progress of the body, but only a few coaches put attention in the improvement of the mind. But the mind moves all the body, all the muscles, but the body responds to the emotions of the mind. I have one more question for you. When one kid is trapped in emotions at home, is more susceptible to get into addictions than a kid who is happy at home?
It seems to be. I mean, the statistics would say yes. And when we look at addictions with our young athletes and young people in general, and the great thing I like that what coaches can do, it's not just the athlete you're working with. If you're working with a young gymnast, let's say, you know, and they've got some siblings that aren't gymnasts, you're still seen as the coach. You're the guy that can give some advice. They might listen to you, especially if you're doing well with the gymnast. So even if the gymnast may not be having some issues with an addiction, if it's their older brother, you know, she might ask you, and if you know the correct information, she can take it to her brother. So there's that. And also, we got to just face up to the fact that, you know, there's a big addiction problem just across America. So it might be a parent, maybe the mother or the father or a caregiver that's trapped in an addiction, which will make the household very turbulent and very stressful. It could even be an older sibling. I've worked with families where, excuse me, one of the children is a substance abuser, and it's rippling through the family. And even though the substance abuser was doing pretty well in school, even though they were getting in trouble, they still were getting okay grades. They were pretty active, things like that. But the other siblings were affecting it more. They were depressed. Their schoolwork went bottomed out because the family was investing so much emotional value in the, not value, but energy, emotional energy in the child with the addiction. Everybody else suffered, right? And then the other thing we have to face up to is if you have a family with, say, 3 children, excuse me, and one of them is an exceptional athlete and the others aren't, you know, the family might need some support to help nurture the children that aren't the elite athlete, because, you know, a lot of times what happens, a family will put all their emotional energy, is what it's called, or psychic energy into the elite athlete, and then the other kids may get left behind. So there's a lot of things coaches that I've seen some elite coaches do. You know, I've been blessed real quick. One of my, it's not my hobby, it's my wife's hobby. She was a showgirl on Ringling, and she flew on the trapeze for years. She was a trapeze artist, flew on Ringling. So where I live in Florida now, we're right next to the where Ringling Brothers, the big circus, used to winter quarter. And there's a trapeze school and a circus school near here. A guy teaches circus arts, and you know how to fly on the trapeze, how to walk a tightrope, how to do this. But one of the things I'm impressed with him is his ability to not just work with the kids that are becoming the elite athletes, but he works with the kids in the same family that they don't have that skill set. They're not genetically gifted with the strength and the hand-eye coordination to do some of the things. So it lifts, as they would say in economics, rising tide lifts all boats. So we have that unique ability to do that. And so, that's one of the things I like. And, the one martial arts teacher I got now, a jiu-jitsu teacher, he took all my NLP training. He's a Carson Gracie guy. It's a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And they just gave me my honorary black belt in that style. But I watch him work with all the athletes, and he's constantly harping on some of the things we talked about. After one of his athletes lost, a pro fight, one of his first pro fights, I watched him work with him so he didn't get too depressed, take it as a learning experiences, as we would say in NLP, as you talk about, coach, things like that. Don't let it get depressed, because a couple of guys that won, they were at not a tournament, but a pro fight. They were going to go out. They're young men, they're 26, 28, so they've been training hard for 2 months for fights. So they're going to go out, and maybe have a few drinks and relax, because they're going to take some time off. Well, this coach was intuitive enough to pull the two kids that lost and say, let's go do something else. So they went for a nice dinner. He helped them with the NLP skills, process through some of what they were going through, so they wouldn't go out and drown their sorrows, as we would say. So, it's why I do get so passionate about this.
Yeah, it's amazing. You touched one special thing that I face all the time. When you have an elite athlete, usually the siblings in the family, they suffer. And they suffer the emotional pain to don't be as athletic like the other guy, don't be the attention like the other one, all the super results they get, and all the others get so frustrated because they are thinking, because we are members of the same family, we need to be equal, we need to be the same, but it's not like that. Someone's born with the dedication, with the genetic to do sports, and others not. And that's why I'm fascinated with what you says about that, because the other kids suffer that problem. They are more susceptible to get into addictions because they feel like they fail, even when they don't even try. And now, let me tell to all the audience something really important. If you just join us today, in this moment, don't worry. We'll repeat it in this interview pretty soon, and we will see. You can hear everything, and I will repeat everything what I said in the beginning of this conversation. If you just get here, go to the Doctor's Will audience board dashboard, and just type the words www.sportperformancesecrets.com/Apex is APEX. You will find right there the audience dashboard of Dr. Will Horton. You will see, you are right there because you see the picture of Dr. Will Horton. It's very important for you to check right there because we'll explain you how to get a special gift Dr. Will prepared for you and for all your family. Because this is not just for you, it's for your whole family and your friends. You will learn a lot of things about what will happen with the alcohol and addiction solution. This is called that. Can you tell us a little bit about this special gift you prepare for the audience?
Yeah, the special gift is a book I wrote, and it overviews a lot of what we're talking about with, how addiction works, a different viewpoint on it, not just the traditional, addiction the treatment of addiction hasn't really changed in 75 years. And so now there's more info coming up that it's a brain-based issue. That it's the neurochemicals in the brain that get out of sync. And so it's not just, it's not an excuse. It's actually brain-based when someone falls into an addiction. And their brain gets out of what we call biobalance, where everything's synchronized. It kind of gets this way or this way, and so somebody's trying to do that. And so it's just kind of an overview and talks about the history of treatment of addictions, different types of addictions, how addictions manifest themselves, and then a different way of looking at getting treatment. Because one of the things with the unique population we're talking about here with athletes, one of the bad, not bad, but usually an athlete has such good willpower, such good strength, they can train through that little, what would put down a normal person. The athlete takes a day off and they're back in the gym working through the pain. They're in the game when they're hurt. All the things like that they will themselves to go forward and do what they need to do. Well, now all of a sudden they may be in an addiction where willpower ain't going to make it. Willpower's not going to fix it, so they need some help. And sometimes it's hard to reach out for help, especially like go to a 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for them to reach out for that, or even go to a mental health practitioner. And also for certain elite athletes, let's be honest, if they're in a competitive arena like pro sports, they might want to keep their what's the word I want? Their exposure low. If they go in for treatment, now boom, the league might know about it, or the Olympic Committee. So now you're going to be flagged. They don't want to be flagged, right? So they need some help. So who are they going to turn to first? They're going to turn to you, their coach, if they trust you, and if you have a little bit of knowledge with it. So I hope everyone gets the free book because they'll have a little bit of knowledge. Not that you can maybe fix their addiction, but maybe you can help work them to go get the help. Go get some help on the, to keep it kind of so it doesn't make a headline. Especially for like what you were talking about with, athletes go to the Olympic Committee or the NCAA or the NFL or, I was lucky enough to work with guys for the National Hockey League. And, once you get on their radar, it's hard to get off. And so, how they found me was they know I'm just this practitioner, and they flew down here to Florida to work with me. So it didn't go through their insurance. It didn't go through the league. It just, they kind of, because they had a good coach that pointed out, you might need some help here, So I was blessed to do that. So I want to give back. That's why I'm giving the book. And it's called The Alcohol and Addiction Solution. And it's free to all the people listening. And I hope, especially the coaches and those that work with not just kids, but everybody. So you have a different attitude about an addiction. So please take it and use it.
It's amazing, that gift, because I know all that information will change the perception of the problem they have, because usually they seen that the problem they have has no solution. Everything has solution. Everything is in the mind. And now I wanna ask all my audience to go and check the special offer Dr. Will Horton has for you. Yes, go to the scroll down and click that button who says special offer. We have something special for you that can help you, especially if you're a coach, because if you're a coach, you can help others getting training to do this program. Doctor will put a special program together for all of you. Or if you have a problem at home, tell one of your parents to get certified in that too, because this is an amazing program for everybody. This program, if you click right there in the button who says special offer, you will see what we have prepared for Dr. Will Horton to you. It's a package who includes 2 DVDs, 7 videos, 21 MP3s, 2 PDFs. It's a whole system, and you can certify in that. You can make your test with Dr. Will Horton, and he will certify. Then you can do the first step, or helping people. That's amazing for coaches. That's amazing for parents, because this is a problem we can. And then click that button, and a special offer, and you will see Dr. Will Horton right there, and you will see everything what we have is prepared for you. And I have always a quote in the middle of the conversation about Albert Einstein, because he is an amazing guy who changed the world with the relativity law and everything else. And he says, one quote, "I never made one of my discoveries through the process of rational thinking." That means it's not logic sometimes to discover America, like Christopher Columbus says. Everybody was thinking the Earth was flat. When he discovered that the Earth no flat, when he proved it, becomes rounded for everybody, not just for Christopher Columbus. And in the science is the same. When somebody discovers something, everybody goes to that. Now, in this part, I want to touch a little bit more about coaches. Why coaches? Because coaches were the responsible, like you mentioned before, Dr. Will, that help the whole family. It's not just the elite athlete. You be part of the family, and as a part of the family, if somebody has a problems, you need to be prepared to help and give the good hand, at least to know where to send them. Because in your program, you have a certification for the people who want to do and help other people. How they can start the program? What are the qualifications they need to have to start your program?
Well, you really, the basic skill sets to be able to talk to people. It's kind of an overview, and what I hope with the coaches, it'll give you a little bit of credibility so you can understand it. And the Apex program, the main program, is a user-friendly program. The 2 DVDs kind of give you an overview of addiction, kind of outline some things, gives you a couple of tools to help overcome. One is called EFT, which is energy psychology, which has been proven empirically to work, which will help with withdrawals and tension, which would be good for all coaches to have for like pre-game jitters or pre-performance jitters. It's a process of tapping on certain pressure points in the body that empirically works. So there's that, and then the audios are self-hypnosis audios that walk you through the process. Some of them, there's a workbook and you do some exercises. So you could do it in your house, and it's downloadable, so a coach could get it and make copies and give it to their athlete. If the athlete doesn't want to get their own program, that's fine, but if they want to use that, because I think or they could buy their own, and then they can use it in the privacy of their own home, so it's not going to be reported or anything like that. But it is, if the coach gets the information, the certification to me is, it would be nice just to say, yes, I've been trained in addictions. So when you're talking to a parent or a fellow coach, or if you're in a school system, an administrator, you could say I've been trained in addictions, and so so that'll add a little bit of credence. So you're talking scientific basis. I tried to base it in more of the neuroscience, and I'm constantly updating it. I'm going to be doing it again based in the new neuroscience that we have that people can use. Because again, it's coaches, teachers, people like that really impact the community, even more so sometimes than the doctors and the therapists. Because they're talking to people in a place where, especially athletes, in a place where they're highly charged emotionally, right? So when you're in a competitive environment, even training, you're in an altered state. You're in a different state of mind, right? You probably dropped out of beta, and you're at least into the alpha state where you're kind of focused. That's light hypnosis, right? When you're really in the zone and you're focused, and the world disappears. All you're doing is that thing at the moment. That's a theta state of mind if we racked you up on a brainwave machine. So we're using those states anyway. And coaches, I know people that have read the book and then done the program, say one thing they've changed is how they coach their athletes depending on what part of the process of competition they're in. An excellent person at this, I got to tell a story, right? I love stories, is Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, he was a football coach. Coached at University of Miami, won a world NCAA title for football. Then went to the Dallas Cowboys and won 2 Super Bowls, or one or two. But he won. He was a winner. Well, he studied psychology, and one of the things he found was, how he coached his athletes was unique. I remember somebody pointed out there was a clip of in one of the games, the Dallas Cowboys weren't playing real well, right? And the quarterback was Troy Aikman, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback now, but it was earlier in his career when the Cowboys were getting good. Well, he threw an interception, and it might have been the second one of the game or something. So it wasn't going good. So, he comes off the field. He's dejected because, he's mad. He snaps his chin strap off. He's yelling and this and that, And usually Jimmy Johnson would come up and yell at all the athletes about, what did you do? But he walked over, ran up to Troy Aikman, who was a lot taller than him. But all he did was put his arm around him, talk to him very quietly. Not that as you're walking down the sidelines, as he was leaving, he pats him on the butt like coaches do, in football, and then turns and finishes coaching the game. And anyway, they come back. Troy Aikman plays a great game, and they win the game. And but they were talking to Jimmy Johnson, a great coach, about it. And he said, well, you have to understand the psychology of the athlete. At that moment, my best player on the team did not need anybody to yell at him and tell him what he did wrong, right? He said, I put my arm around him and said, hey, this is nothing. We've done this in the past. You've thrown interceptions. We've won games. Don't worry about it. Go have a drink of water. Sit down, relax, get your head straight. We'll get the ball back for you, and we'll go from there. And that's exactly what happened, right? And so he knew how to coach the athletes at that level. And so, because he studied psychology and he studied neurolinguistics and all the stuff that we're talking about, because he knew at that moment Troy Aikman was in an altered state. And if he'd have yelled at him and fed it in even worse, and gave negative commands, don't throw an interception, don't put the ball on the ground. Well, what's he going to do? That's what he's going to do. So he understood that. So I just think that it's fascinating to study other, other human performance experts like coaches.
Perfect. That's an amazing story. I love to hear stories because that illustrates at the subconscious level exactly what happened inside the mind. I have sometimes athletes who don't understand the passion of the sport. They have the ability, but they don't have it because they have the talent, like you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation. When they have the talent, they don't need to do any effort. They said, why to do the effort if I do everything fast? And later, when they go into the high level or the professional level, they find out, or they work hard, or they quit. Mostly they quit. But when they stay very good athletes because they've discovered the power of that. Now, let me tell to my audience another way to get a session we have today. I the page of Dr. Will Horton. Just type the www.sportperformancesecrets.com/apex, and you will see the special offer button right there. See it right there. Everything what we have prepared for you. Take advantage of that because it's big discount. That is very, very big discount because this program is offering $400 something the whole program. In this special call, in this special interview, you will get it for $97, and you will have the opportunity to help yourself and help others. Because not only you will be aware of addictions, you will be aware of what happened with the mind and how to control that emotions inside your mind. And now, when you take advantage of that opportunity to be owner of one system that good, I want to ask Dr. Will, some questions from the public we have right here. Brian from Texas says, can I start the process with no getting caught? That, and he's asking that to you, Dr.
Right. Yeah, oh yeah.
Then he can start the process.
Yeah, right, you can do this because, especially it's a home study process, watch the DVDs, on your laptop, give you the idea, and of course the audios, you can pop in anywhere as long as you can relax, for the 20 or 25 minutes of the audio because they're hypnotic. So they say take a deep breath and close your eyes, and you don't want to close your eyes while you're driving, right?
Yeah.
But what we want to do is get you the ability to do that. That's the main reason people buy this kind of program, is to do it in the privacy of their own home, so they're not checking into a rehab center, or they're not going to a doctor where it might get put on their insurance. This is something they can do, in their own home. Especially if you're kind of a high-profile athlete, even in your hometown, it might be kind of hard to walk into an AA meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, or a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, because I've worked with high-profile people, mostly politicians, not athletes for this, but they would go to 12-step programs when they would go like one town over, or when they were out of town, they would go to meetings. They didn't want to go to meetings in their own town, which kind of made sense. And so with this program, I've had people get this program so it can support them, when they're at home, so they can't maybe get that help that they're used to. So that's another reason why I did it that way.
Oh, that's excellent. Especially you says that they can do it in their own home and nobody will notice. It's a good thing, because we are not addicted only to drugs. We can be addicted even to internet, to food, to anything. And the people just try to cover their needs and their emotions towards something. It can be sugar. This program will help you everything. Any addiction you have, you will understand the principles involved in that, and you will understand that. I have another question from Keith from Florida. Can I help others when I help myself?
That's a great question, Keith. I mean, it's a wonderful question, because when you look at the 12-step community, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, all of those communities, they're based on people helping people. And there's nothing more powerful than when you overcome a problem. When someone else is having that problem, you can say, I've been there. And you can talk what it's like. We see it in pro sports when, an athlete has a high-profile incident, gets a DUI, gets drunk and gets in a fight in a club. I know the NFL does this. They have people that are current players and former players that have overcome an addiction. They're the ones to reach out and make contact with that athlete, because they've been there. They know what it's like. And again, for athletes, I don't want to say they're special, but they're special. They have unique situations that other people may not have. And so there's nothing more powerful than doing that. So once you get over that yourself, it's easier for you to help other people. And maybe even just talk to them about it, and maybe just have them ask for help, and then you can tell them what you did. This is what I did. I did this, this, and this. Here, why don't you try it? Let's see what happens. So yeah, once you overcome it, you can help other people.
Yes, that's very important, because when you experience that, you can encourage others, and you multiply that experience to others. You encourage the others. Now it's time to receive the free gift. I will tell you how. The free gift for all our audience is go to the dashboard, the web page. In case you've been there, use the www.sportperformancesecrets.com/apex to get your thanks gift for this interview. Go on the bottom, go to click the special offer button, and you will see another page right there. It says Will Horton Thank You Gift. It's a small box with your name and your email address. Just fill it up, and in a couple of minutes you will receive the whole book. That book saved a lot of lives and a lot of families. Please take advantage of that. This is a special effort Dr. Will Horton is doing for helping athletes to live better. Then please take advantage of that. Take advantage of the whole system, and we need to have a better community of sports. We are getting to almost the end of this conversation. I'm so happy to have you here, Dr. Will, and I'm so excited because usually athletes, like you mentioned, are special. They're a little different. That's why they dedicate their lives into the sports. And do you have any special words using your NLP arsenal, how they can concentrate better, how they can stop the sabotage
Oh,
to be
okay.
better?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. You know, as one looks to the future, when you're looking to your future, it's kind of interesting. Your future's not written in stone. And in fact, when you think of your past, just because you've done one way in the past doesn't mean you have to continue that way in the future. Your past is nothing more than where you were, not necessarily where you're going. And in fact, many times, by knowing where you've been in the past, it helps you make better decisions on where you want to go in the future. You don't want to go back there. You want to go forward into more successes, more fun, and just have a better life. And to do that, you can use some of the things from your past. You can use the things in your past which were helpful to you. You know, you can think of times in your past where you had focus and concentration. If you're an athlete or a coach, you've had those moments where you were there, you were on, you were everything. Well, if you think about that right now, if you grasp that feeling right now where you were on, it was a great game. You were doing what you needed to do. And if you just feel that feeling of being at your very best and just know that your brain and body know what that feeling is like, what would it be like now if you took that feeling into the next time you had a test to take, if you're in school, or a business meeting, if you're a businessman besides being a coach or an athlete? Take that feeling of, yes, I can do this. I'm the guy that, or the girl that did X, Y, or Z. You know, if I could do that, I can do this. You know, if you take that talent, ability, and skill that you had in the past as an athlete, as a coach, as a role model, and you look to your future and go, it's unlimited, it's bright, it's open. And the only thing holding you back is your own limiting beliefs. And so what I like to do is help you remove those limiting beliefs. So as you can let go of the things in the past that no longer work, bring forward those things in your past which can help you go to the future you desire. Whether that's high performance sports, high performance coaching, you know, your personal life, be not just a better athlete, but eventually maybe be a better husband, wife, father, person in general, right? And do a student, everything that you do. So take these skills and use them. That's one of my passions. And if there's an addiction in the way, that's something you have to put in your past so you can leave it behind you and not have it affect your future. I was given the gift beyond my wildest dreams when I was able to take that addiction that was stopping me cold, put it behind me, and my future opened up. And I've been able to do things, meet gentlemen like you and Brad and all these wonderful people that I've met over the years, and still do my sports. I'm an athlete. I do competitive martial arts. I'm a performer, an actor. You know, that's my hobby: singing, dancing, doing those things, and you know, stuff like that. So when you look to that and you want that in your future, now's the time to do it. So I'm thankful that you spent this hour with me, and I hope to see you in the future.
I'm very happy to hear all that words from you. You totally illustrate all our athletes, all our audience for pure knowledge. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for your participation. And to our audience, thank you so much for being here. And remember, we have the repetition for 48 hours. Call all your friends, call all the coaches you know, and tell them about this conversation and take advantage. It's 90% discount. And please, don't forget to pick it up. You get free gift. It's free for you and your family. Just put your name, put the email address, and thank you so much, Dr. Will. I'm so glad that we get all that information for you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.